What's going on, everybody? I wanted to make a quick video explaining the new real estate rules. So I'm going to do two, one for sellers and one for buyers. So let's start with the buyers. Now, if you want to work with a licensed real estate agent or realtor, they cannot show you any houses without having a signed buyer brokerage agreement. So, what does that mean? You, as the consumer, you should really, number one, know who you're working with, because you are signing an agreement that could lock you in to a exclusivity with that agent for as long as your agreement says. Now, I can tell you, if you're serious about working with me, I'm going to want to sign at least a 6 month to a year agreement. I am going to be very specific in the areas that we choose to work in, of course, because I know where I'm an expert, which is mainly here in Babcock Ranch, and now, my team's expanding into Fort Myers and Cape Coral, so got a lot of good knowledge of those areas. But what do you need to be careful about when you sign this agreement? Number one, the areas. Number two, the length. And three, you need to really be careful about the percentage. So a realtor is essentially going to tell you, here's how much I would like to be paid. And when you look at these agreements, you, the consumer, are on the hook to pay the real estate agent. Does not mean that you are going to be the one paying the agent. Now, in this area, we have lots of builders that are still compensating realtors. And as far as I've seen, nothing's really changed on the listings. The sellers are probably still going to compensate the agents. But it's just done a little differently now. So what I wanted to really just make clear is that technically speaking, your real estate agent could hold you on the hook for any difference in the compensation level you agreed to. So for example, if you're going to be looking at resales with a buyer agent, most likely they're going to ask for a 3% commission to be placed inside that buyer brokerage agreement. So what happens if you go and find that perfect home where the listing is only willing to compensate a buyer's broker 2.5%? Technically speaking, the agent could hold you, the consumer, responsible. Now, if you're working with an agent like myself, I'm going to tell you that I am going to accept whatever is offered or what I can negotiate skillfully. So if we sign something for 3% and I only get paid 2.5%, I am only going to accept 2.5%. I am not going to hold you, the consumer, liable for that 0.5%. I can tell you there probably will be real estate agents who are going to hold people liable because, hey, we work hard and we put a lot of time and energy into showing houses. It can take weeks, months, depending on who that person is, to find that right home. So on those agreements, we can legally accept less, and we don't have to modify those agreements to accept less. You may want to ask the agent, like, what's the bottom percentage that they are willing to accept, and an agent can say, this agreement is for 3%, and I am not going to accept anything less than 2.5%, like, for example. So you need to make sure you have this conversation with the agent that you intend to work with. Like, what happens in that scenario? Are you going to charge me, or are you going to be just okay accepting? Here in Babcock Ranch in Southwest Florida, we have lots of new construction homes. So I like to, right now, builders are paying huge bonuses. So honestly, on my agreements, I am asking people to sign it at 5%, or even, depending who it may be, what builder they want to see, even up to 6%. Now, again, if we don't go with that builder, I'm certainly just going to accept what is less, but it's still, for you, the consumer, worth having that conversation. Now, you can always amend this buyer broker agreement. So like, if you're not, if you're not fully convinced that your real estate agent will accept less, what you can do is, before you sign an offer, you can certainly modify that buyer brokerage agreement to whatever is going to be, offered by that seller or by that builder right before you sign, to keep you, not liable to pay any extra commission to that real estate agent. But yeah, that's really the scoop, guys, and that's my tip for all you consumers out there that are looking to buy a house here in the future. Make sure you go over these buyer broker agreements. Make sure you have that conversation of that, what happens in that scenario where they're compensating you less than what we agreed to on our agreement. So hope that helps. And of course, if you have any questions about these buyer broker agreements, please reach out. Happy to lend some assistance.